Hello, everyone. Come on into the Zoom room. We're going to have a good call tonight. All right, people are flooding in. We've got two awesome members on the line right next to me. All right, we're recording. We're officially live, folks. Welcome. It must be a Wednesday night, and it must be the first Wednesday of the month because we are back for another member perspective call. I'm going to continue to slowly get into the call because I still see people joining and I don't want to start too soon. But we will have this recording available for anyone who needs it. Let's give it just another 30 seconds. All right, 15 seconds sounds good. I'm excited for tonight, folks. Welcome. I am Maddie Roach. I am XYPN's Director of Getting Shit Done. That title is more of a novelty title nowadays. I am the Director of Member Services, and I've had the honor and privilege of working with all over 700 of our members, and I'm so excited and super pumped tonight to talk to two awesome all-star members. Tonight's call is per usual themed. Usually we talk about one specific topic and we let the callers and the members talk through any questions submitted. We're going to do that tonight, but tonight's topic is one that's of particular importance to me and to our members, of course, and likely to you since you're on the call. And it's all about XYPN membership pro tips. Typically, we don't talk explicitly about membership on these calls, but tonight we decided to dedicate a call to that topic. Many of you have submitted questions already to us, so I've got them right here on my other screen, and Alyssa and Kyle just got them yesterday, so don't worry, we haven't prepped too much for this call. We love having definitely a natural call and one that answers the questions live too, so please do submit your questions in the question and answer section of Zoom. Like I said, this call is recorded. We host this call every single first Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock Pacific and 9 o'clock Eastern. Out of respect for all of your time, as well as our two members' time, we are going to limit this call to 1 hour. So we will be wrapping up within 58 minutes. And trust me, these calls go by fast. So if you have had any burning questions that you haven't had the chance to ask one of our XYPN staff members, or that you just want to hear from the mouths of our own members, please submit them in the question and answer section. Tonight, we've got two awesome members who have joined XYPN within 2 months of each other back in 2017. So they've both officially been over a year at XYPN membership, so they do know a thing or two about taking advantage of all the things that we offer. We've got Kyle Moore out in Minnesota, and we've got Alyssa Lum out in Virginia. So it's late for Alyssa, and we want to be sure to wrap this call up at the hour to make sure she can get to bed on time. But we are so excited for today's call, and I'm really going to make sure that I just moderate this call and let Kyle and Alyssa do all the fun talking. So Alyssa, would you mind introducing yourself and just letting us know a little bit about your firm, where you're located and what you've built? And then Kyle, the same question to you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Alyssa Lum. My firm is Luminate Financial Planning. I'm located in a DC suburb, Sterling, Virginia. Let's see, I joined XYPN last May and got officially registered in the state of Virginia last August. So I'm just hitting the 12-month mark here coming up this month. I primarily serve families with college-bound kids. So most of my clients are families pretty similar to mine. I happen to have 3 kids who are 16, 14, and 12. So many with kind of similar setups to that. And I guess that's it for now. I look forward to your questions.
Awesome.
I am Kyle Moore, located in St. Paul, Minnesota. Fee-only RIA, started with XY last year. I was registered in May, but I guess Maddie said I signed up in March, which I thought it was April. But anyway, yeah, so it's been a little bit over a year now that I've been with XY Planning. I was an associate advisor at a different firm before that. So I've had some good growth this year. I serve kind of a barbell set of clients. On one end, there are high net worth individuals where I'm doing comprehensive wealth management. And then on the other end of that barbell are, Generation X and Y who pay a retainer, or it's a retainer AUM combination. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And callers, if you guys want to know anything more about either of our members, just go ahead and type it into the question and answer component if you've got questions about their specific firms. We have shared their websites in the chat, so feel free to visit those. And we've got some awesome questions submitted, so we're going to dive right in. Kyle was recently, just today, on XYPN Radio, so if you do want to hear more about Kyle's story, go on over to XYPN Radio. And Alyssa is on vacation today, so we got to give her extra credit for coming and joining today's call. I think this is a first to have a member volunteer to do a call like this on a vacation night. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of it. We had a lot of callers submit questions about the time frame of when to join membership. So if we can just go back in time about a year and a couple months ago and think about what triggered you to join and what that time frame looked like for you, we're going to talk about a couple of those questions. So out of the gate, I'm a student looking to start my own firm within a couple of years. How do I know when I've gained enough knowledge to start, and what is waiting too long to start, in your own words? So Kyle, I'll ask you that question first, and Alyssa, you next.
By student, I'm guessing this person's saying that they're a college student. And if that's the case, I would say go work for the absolute best firm that you could possibly work for. Go do one of the residency programs. There's a few of them out there, but you really want to get valuable experience. And I mean, I did it about as quickly as I could. It took me almost 4 years from when I got into the industry, more than 4 years, 4.5 years, when I got into the industry to when I launched my firm. And I got the best experience possible. And that helped everything with my growth and the way I serve clients. So I would say, yeah, you really got to go work for a great firm first. I think that's a bad idea to go right out of college and start your firm, even within the first 3 years or so. I think you need to get your CFP, get many years under your belt, because your clients deserve better than you to launch your firm without really having everything buttoned up.
Great. And we'll talk about what some of those buttons are that you might want to button up before you start. But Alyssa, what's your take on how do folks know that they've gained enough knowledge to go out on their own?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will echo Kyle's words for sure, which is get some experience. For me, I worked with 2 other advisors for about 4 years, almost 4.5. I did things in reverse, which is that I passed my CFP exam before I had experience directly in the industry. So for me, once I got my CFP and completed those hours, then I launched my firm. But it helped tremendously to have that experience working with other advisors, working with clients, managing money, and all of those things for sure.
Mm-hmm. So much to learn, so much.
Anything outside of the CFP curriculum that you recommend advisors start looking at or thinking about before preparing to start their own firm? Kyle?
I mean, just read as much as you can. Read Kitsis every single day. The standard things like that, but do the residency program. But really, it's about being in a firm, seeing planning done every single day, seeing client meetings run, understanding the back office. All of those things are crucial in terms of launching your own firm, or else you're gonna fall flat on your face.
Alyssa, any other thoughts?
I would agree, and we're probably going to talk about it as well, but you also need time to build up a pretty good reservoir of money. I think before, you're going to need funds before you go out on your own. So it's a pretty good opportunity to work for somebody else, save as much as you can, do your own planning for yourself, I would say, before launching your own firm. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about numbers. What were you prepared to go without when you joined XYPN membership in terms of income? How did you prepare financially for starting your own firm? Alyssa?
I am fortunate in that I'm married and I had a husband who we could live on his salary for a year. So I plan to not take any salary. I basically put $10,000 into my business checking account when we started this, and took no salary, although I did start taking my own salary, I guess about 4 months ago. So I am paying myself a small salary, not a lot, but so we plan to go that long and burn through that 10,000 before I started building up again, I would say, for sure. So, but
Wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead.
So 10,000 for just the business expenses, things like that, and then plus the ability to not pull an income.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, my healthcare and everything else was covered by my husband. We certainly cut back on lots of, family vacations and everything else, except here I am on vacation. It's a year out, but we cut back, but you're having a salary coming in for sure.
Great. And Kyle, what's your take on it?
Well, before I launched my firm, I didn't make much money, and my wife primarily stayed at home. So, my salary when I got into the industry was $40,000, and by the time I left, it was $60,000. So we weren't really living on much anyway. And I just thought I was pretty sure I was going to end up making more money starting my firm relatively quickly. I just felt like that was the right path to go. And so we didn't really have to cut back a ton because I got revenue up fairly quickly. But I think being frugal really, really helps. And we had 30,000 saved in the bank, and I had a home equity line of credit of 60,000. By the time I launched to when I had my first billing cycle, we had burned through all 33,000 that we had saved up. But once that billing cycle kicked in, we were able to make it without actually hitting the line of credit, to give you just some idea of how that all worked for me.
Super helpful. Thanks for sharing those numbers. I know not every one of our callers has the opportunity to hear about really what it takes financially to get this up and moving. Alyssa, you commented on this, but how did you budget for your own healthcare and dental when thinking about going out on your own? Alyssa?
Again, I'm not the right person to ask because we stayed on my husband, so which I highly recommend if you can, but obviously that's not the case for everybody. So. Yeah.
And Kyle, how about you?
Well, we fortunately last year we didn't have to pay anything for health insurance because Minnesota has great options for people who are low income. So we qualified for that last year. This year is a different story, but we're a part of Christian Health Network, I think, and so we're currently paying $450 a month for health insurance. And I mean, it's a great network, but we're probably going to switch to real insurance as soon as I hire my first full-time employee. We don't have dental insurance, which kind of sucks because just today my daughter went and had some fillings, and actually a tooth crowned. So that's like, I think $2,500 is what that's going to cost us. So we don't have dental insurance yet, but I think that's in order now. But yeah, some of those, I mean, if you qualify for premium tax credits under Obamacare, then that's one of the real perks of that for someone who wants to start their own firm and take a big pay cut.
Great. And a lot of those conversations happen internally on the XYPN member forums. A lot of new members do ask recommendations for ideas of how to handle those kind of insurance needs. Going back a little bit to prior to joining, Kyle, how long was it before quitting your job and starting your firm? Did you join while you were still employed, or what was the scenario?
Yeah, I had nothing lined up. If you listen to the podcast, you can hear a little bit more about that. I didn't have anything lined up, and I ended up just jumping out. And I had to get registered. Minnesota's fairly quick in terms of the registration process. So between the time that I left and actually was registered, it was probably a month or so. But yeah, I didn't have anything lined up prior to leaving.
Wonderful. And Alyssa, how about you?
So I joined in May. I was still working I was working as an assistant to an advisor. I did not quit my job until I actually submitted my registration to the state of Virginia. So I worked with Scott Gill, who was really helpful. So I did a lot of the XYPN, registration work right up until the point where we had to submit to Virginia. And that's when I quit my job. So that was middle of July. And then I was registered middle of August, I guess. So it was a month, I guess, between quitting and getting registered.
Wonderful. Yep. And for anyone wondering, Scott Gill is our director of compliance. So he manages an awesome team who will help advisors either who are currently employed or even not employed get registered with the state. We did have a couple questions come in from our current callers about living expenses. Do you have a recommended number in mind you think folks need, Kyle?
It really depends. I mean, I spent a lot of money on my business. I wanted to look as legitimate as possible, as soon as possible. And so I tried to buy all the things that an established RIA would have and do a lot of those things. And I had a decent amount of time without money, without income. So there was, probably a 3-month period where I didn't have a single dollar coming in. So it was living expenses. We lived off, I think, $4,000 a month for those months. That's 16 grand right there. And then, all the business expenses I probably spent in the first 3 months, I probably spent 15 to 20 grand. So it just really depends on what you're trying to build. If you're going to work out of your house, that's a different story than if you get an office like I did. It really depends on what you do. There's some XY members who spend, $10,000 to $15,000 a year on their firm. And you can really, you can do that. But I spent a lot more. So it's just hard to say. If I would do it on the cheap, I definitely wouldn't do it with less than 20 grand in the bank. Probably 30, I think, would be the best option. That would have given me more of a runway if I needed it.
Great. And Alyssa, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that I spent $13,500 that first year on the business. I would say for me, that was just the first 4 or 5 months with only $7,000 of income. So that was 17, because it does, I mean, Kyle's right. Even once you're registered, it's still going to be at least a couple months, I think, before you see any money, even if you have clients. But then 2018, and that turned around to, suddenly you're getting more income and expenses. There's a lot of expenses up front for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Kyle and Alyssa both hit it on the head that it totally depends on the type of firm you're going to be building and how you're going to adjust your lifestyle for something like this. So definitely lots of members are talking about it inside the forums, but this information from Kyle and Alyssa is priceless. Thank you so much. Let's talk about membership specifically. Alyssa, what has been your greatest benefit from joining XY?
Oh, geez. I mean, okay, there's a lot of benefits. I mean, for sure. I would probably say, I'm going to say, I know that's not fair. The first is probably the community, and just between the forums, I'm in a study group, I have reached out to so many members just with a question or, advice, and people are always willing to share and help. That's the first. The second is how people find me. Thankfully, XYPN is in the news a fair amount, I would say. So a lot of people who are searching for fee-only advisors, especially for younger clients, they usually find XYPN, so it's helpful to be associated. So I'm gonna 2 different things are the best. So.
Yeah, great. No, those are wonderful things. Thanks. Kyle, how about you?
I think, I don't know how I would have launched my firm without XY planning. I mean, it's a streamlined process. You have all the resources that you need. You have a tech stack that's ready and waiting for you. You have access to custodians that would never talk to you otherwise, or a custodian that would never talk to you otherwise, even though, I don't use TD, but you wouldn't get on TD if you didn't have XY, if you weren't bringing over, $10 million of client assets. So, all the member benefits are just really great. I'm saving tons of money on all of my software. So really the membership pays for itself, and the discounts that, if you utilize most of them, then yeah, there's just tremendous wealth of resources available within the membership.
Great. Do either of you use E&O insurance through XY Planning Network? Kyle?
I do. Yeah, I really should increase mine. I need to figure out how to do that. But yeah, I do use E&O through them. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Alyssa, how about you?
I do as well. I'm just using the basic right now, but yep.
Wonderful. And then Alyssa, you mentioned the community and the study groups and the forums. How else do you use the community, or what do you rely on the community for?
I mean, kind of for almost everything. I mean, when Kyle said, I don't know how I would run my firm without, or have lunch without XY, that's true. I mean, any question. I mean, I guess I've reached out many times, like I said, that to the local XY planners in the DC area. You know, I've had lunch with many of them, and we share ideas. Certainly on the forums, I've reached out to people. I've personally reached out to lots of XY members, and just like I said, just for support and for questions and for like, hey, are you using this software? Are you using this? Like, what, you know, I don't know. It's somebody to bounce ideas off of, because you know, most of us are single advisors, so it's lonely when you're used to working in an office, and it's kind of nice to know that there is a large community of people who are helpful and friendly and supportive, for sure. So.
Great. I often hear it's like taking you guys off of your isolated island and putting you on an island with lots of people who know and understand the things you guys are working on. Kyle, what's your relationship with the community been like?
It's great. You know, the amount of questions that are asked just are kind of mind blowing. You know, you have people and threads regarding practice management, hiring, financial planning, you know, related questions, different client situations that are difficult. There's been plenty of times that I've put questions out there, and I try to get into the forums and respond to questions as I see them, if I have something to say. But yeah, you get a tremendous amount of opinions and information that you wouldn't get otherwise from other members who've been there and done that, you know, so that's a really huge value add.
Great. What was your experience at one of the XYPN conferences? Did either of you attend any of our previous conferences? Kyle?
Yeah, my last year was my first one, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really helpful, understanding how to manage the business and how to start it and grow it. I mean, I was at early stage. I was 2 months in or 3 months in maybe. And so there's different tracks depending on where you are, where your firm is in maturity. And so you get to pick any number of the sessions that are going on at that point. So it was really great. It's kind of, you know, it's getting huge. That's for sure. It's getting big, but you guys do a great job of creating, you know, different one-off groups and side tracks that are, you know, more applicable to individuals.
Great. And Alyssa, how about your thoughts?
Last year was the first conference that I attended, and I actually literally got my letter of registration days before the conference. So it's kind of fun to show up and see everybody. I actually, before I joined XY, I bought the whatever the conference pack is that you can then watch all. Like, I literally watched every single like session from the conference year before, which was really helpful to me, like when I was thinking about going out on my own. And so I just watched that before, and then attended last year's conference and met lots of great people and learned a lot. I'm really looking forward to this year's, because now there's a lot of people that I've met online, but in person, I guess next month or 2 months, whenever that is. So
wonderful.
It's great. Highly recommend it. So.
That's a good point. You guys can buy the virtual pass even without being members or attending the conferences. Yeah. So definitely check out our virtual pass if you want to know more about our previous conference content. And feel free to come on down to St. Louis this year to hang out with other XY members. We have a question about how you set up your business entities. Kyle, would you talk a little bit about that? Did you do S Corp, LLC, something like that?
Yeah, I'm an LLC, sole proprietor. I'll work with my CPA to figure out whether I should switch to an S Corp at some point soon. But for right now, that's good with the new qualified business deduction, income deduction. I'm sitting pretty with just being a sole proprietor.
Great. And Alyssa, you?
Same for me. I'm LLC, sole proprietor. So
wonderful.
That's it.
If we have any other questions about that, drop them in the chat or in the question and answer component. Going back to membership, Alyssa, would you give us a little summary of what your kind of use of XYPN membership benefits are, tech stack and otherwise?
Okay.
Just that stand out. I don't expect perfection since there's lots of them out there. But yeah, just kind of overall, what are the main things you're using of membership?
Okay, so I'm definitely making use of the tech stack. I'm very happy with it. So I use Right Capital for my financial planning, and I do the account aggregation. I do Wealthbox for my CRM. I do Cap Detect for performance reporting. Oh no, help me! I don't know what else there is. And I'm using Smart RIA for compliance.
You're on the profile page,
Definitely. Okay. Yep. I'm definitely on the profile page.
Great.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm not, I mean, I will say that I'm a technical person, and that I learned a lot about each of those programs, the ones that are free especially, and I'm getting as much as I possibly can out of the software that we get as part of our membership. And I found that to be very good.
Great. Kyle, how about you?
I use Right Capital for financial planning, Orion for performance reporting. I've been using Trade Warrior for rebalancing, but XY just rolled out the relationship with, or the additional benefit of Eclipse, which is their rebalancer for half price, which is awesome. I was really hoping that you guys would pull that one through. So I'll be switching to that soon. Smart RIA, yeah, I all the ones that you guys have I use. So I have a few other softwares that are outside XYPN, but not many.
Awesome. And Kyle, you're also on the profile page. So talk to us a little bit about your experience finding clients. Are you using XY primarily? Are they coming through XY's portal, or some or a few? And then otherwise, kind of where are you finding your newest clients?
I am on the portal page, and it's funny. I've had a few that have come directly from the portal page. One of them was just someone looking for retirement planning. It's kind of a cryptic message. I responded to it. We ended up having a phone call, then an in-person meeting, and now it's a client with $2.5 million AUM. So, I mean,
wow.
Just one of those is, paying for my XY membership 3 times over almost. But yeah, I mean, most of my new clients, originally it was personal network, still a lot more personal network now, but I'm getting a lot of web traffic. I've done a lot with SEO and for Google search, trying to optimize that. So you can look at the podcast, and if you want to hear more about that.
Wonderful. Alyssa, what's your experience been?
Yeah, I mean, I would say half of my clients have been personal network and half have been through online sources, and probably, I don't even know, maybe 4 or 5 have directly come through the portal, probably more. A lot more people don't know exactly how they found me, but they know they Googled, or they know they read about XYPN, and then most of them go directly through my website, but I think they got there either through NAPA or XY. So I can't say exactly, but I could say I've gotten the most traffic when XY is in some sort of like New York Times article or something about how to find a financial advisor. I still get calls. I just literally last week just got somebody who had read the article like 3 months ago or something and marked it, and then we're looking for an XY planner. So I definitely have found value from that. And even somebody who read about Garrett Planning Network and thought they were calling me as a Garrett planner, which I'm not. I was like, all right, I'm not going to mention that. And they called me as an XY person. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We've definitely noticed that as XYPN's notoriety has increased, we've seen more web traffic to the Find an Advisor profile page. And going back to Kyle and Alyssa's original recommendations for advisors, it's to go get your CFP because both these wonderful members of ours are CFPs and can use the designation, and thus are on our Find an Advisor profile page. We do require that to be listed on the Find an Advisor profile page. Do either of you respond actively to media requests that you get through XY? Kyle? Yeah,
that was part of my SEO strategy, was to respond to those. I have a pretty strong writing background, and so I try to make those responses as punchy and quotable as possible. And then, whenever they did quote me, I would request that they link back to my page. And so getting backlinks from other pages that have high authority really boosts your ranking and boosts the authority of your own site. And so I think that is not all journalists are going to do that, are going to backlink to you, but some will. And the more backlinks that you have, the better. And so that was a part of the strategy. And then, like I said, I try to look as legitimate as possible. And to the outside world. So when people go to my website, they see, as seen on, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, all these publications that people respect. And so I think that does go a long way when you're just a solo person in an office. Having those sites with high authority, just from a psychological standpoint, but also from an SEO standpoint, can really help.
That's a great tip, to ask for a link back. That's not what every advisor does, and I'm sure it's paid off for you, Kyle. That's a really, really good pro tip for sure. We do get a lot of media requests. There's sometimes a day where 4 or 5 will come through to our members, and the second you join membership, you'll start seeing them. You are automatically involved in the media request program upon joining XYPN. Alyssa, what's your experience been with media requests?
My experience is that is on my to-do list, and I have not done it yet. So I get all the same requests, and I should be doing it, and Kyle's inspiring me that I should start responding. So I have not taken advantage of that amazing benefit that we have.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Two different sides of the story. And I do think Alyssa dropped off video because her audio might be better on vacation mode when she has her video off. So don't mind that, folks. Okay, let's talk about kind of how you would define an ideal XYPN member. When you think about all the members you've met over the past year and a half or so, what are some of the qualities that really stand out to you, Alyssa?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, definitely I would recommend getting your CFP. We've said that a lot tonight. Definitely get your CFP before going out on your own. I think the ideal XYPN members are the people who are very self-motivated. I've seen some, it's hard to know what to do every day, like when you're on your own. And so the people who are self-motivated to be every day, I don't know, without anyone telling them what to do, I would say. So self-motivated is probably the most, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I think people who are really great financial planners are they get it and they'd be a great member, but also willing to give back to the community. So, you're going to reap a lot of benefits from the community, doing things, like this right now, where you can answer questions and be a resource to those who are maybe a little bit behind you. I think that's someone who's going to come in and add a lot of value to XYPN and have success too.
Yeah, great. This was a really interesting question. Kyle, did you, and this is for both you and Alyssa, do you ever find yourself competing against other XY members? If so, how do you handle the conflict?
Well, that's an interesting question, because as with my marketing strategy, I'm targeting people who are looking for fee-only planners, right? And so most of the people who come to work with me are people who are looking for that. And so I'm going to be going up against all the other people that show up in that search too, who are also fee-only planners. I purposely put my office in downtown St. Paul rather than downtown Minneapolis because there's less competition in St. Paul for that, knowing that I'd be going up against other fee-only firms for, competing for clients. But, if you take it, you should have an abundance mentality regardless. There's plenty of clients out there. I mean, I'm almost done in terms of how many clients I can actually work with. And I'm in my second year now. So, and I have, 30 more years to go. So, I just wouldn't really worry about that too much. You're not going to be the right fit for every client either. So being able to say no to revenue and send them to somebody who is a better fit, I think, is the right thing to do. It's hard when you're getting started, but I wouldn't really think about the competition too much. You obviously want to win the clients, but you're just not going to be the right fit all the time.
Yeah, that's a really honest answer. Thanks, Kyle. How about you, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I agree. I've thought about it as well, but I also agree with the abundance mentality, which is that like when I think the more education there is in the world about fee-only planning, of which there really aren't very many fee-only planners, right? So I don't think yet we have too many fee-only planners. So once, as long as people know they want fee-only planners, yeah, they're going to then look at XY planners. But I don't know. I think so far anyway, there seems to be no shortage of clients looking for fee-only planners, and most people don't know what fee-only planners are. When more people learn that, then it will only be better. So,
yeah,
exactly.
That's a great answer. And I think, I mean, Alan Moore has said it time and time again, there are no finite number of clients out there. There are millions and millions and millions of folks who need and deserve good financial planning from everyone. But this does beg the question that an anonymous caller did ask, and we get this question a lot. Is there competition with Garrett Planning Network? And we at XYPN say absolutely not. We're all in this together. The more folks getting good planning by good advisors benefits all of us. So we really consider Garrett Planning an ally of ours. But did either of you ever consider joining Garrett Planning Network? And if so, why did you decide XY? We do have a fair number of advisors in both. I'll let whoever wants to jump in, jump in.
I mean, I can jump in because I heard of Garrett Planners before I heard of XY Planners because I've been looking for a long time. So I really felt surely that I was going to go Garrett Planner until I started listening to, actually I talked to a Garrett Planner who told me to look at XY. and then I started listening to the podcast, and then the XY planning message just resonated a lot more with me. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot more XY planners at this point as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Yeah. Kyle, what about you?
I never looked at Garrett. I wasn't interested in doing an hourly model, and I do send clients, people who are looking just for hourly services, and I don't really think that they're a good long-term fit for me. Then I would send them to a Garrett person, but I don't feel like there's competition. The way I'm structured is just so much different than the service model is so much different than a Garrett would deliver. And I have had one client, a big client, come to me who was with a Garrett advisor, and didn't get their phone calls returned, didn't get emails returned, because in order to make the hourly model work, you need to have 500 to 1,000 people out there who have engaged you at some point and will hopefully engage you again. And so if somebody wants hourly, I might just educate them a little bit on the different types of service models and what you would receive with me as opposed to an hourly model. And I don't try to force it though, and I'm happy to send people who inquire to me to someone at Garrett Network.
Wonderful. This question is naturally the follow-up to it, but why join a network at all? Did you join XY for something specific, or what? I mean, not every planner joins a network to help them with it. So I guess, what was your initial reasoning for joining XY and finding a network and a community to support you, Kyle?
I mean, number one, I didn't know what I was doing. Number two, all the tools and software that I needed were going to be cheaper, all in with XY. I mean, I did the spreadsheets and figured that out pretty quickly. The math just works in XY's favor, and then you have all the other member benefits too. So, I mean, I felt like it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Alyssa, did you know that you were going to join a network before starting?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing it without joining a network for sure. Like I said, I thought Garrett Planning Network just because I had heard of that first. I think they provide the same community and resources as just a different style of planning, I would say, or a different service model. So I can't imagine doing it without a network and without the resources of XY Planning for sure. I mean, Kyle's right. We get so many discounts that financially, I don't even think it would make sense to do it without it. But then I think you just get a lot more support and more clients coming your way, I would say, if you're affiliated with something. Also, I use TD Ameritrade And I don't think, I'm sure I couldn't have gone on with them without that. So.
Yeah, we had a couple questions come in about investment management. Alyssa, you want to talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there and how you're handling that component of your business?
Sure. So I use TD Ameritrade. And so I charge either, I do either a monthly retainer or AUM, depending on how much assets the clients have. So I use TD Ameritrade. I use a lot of DFA funds, and I use iRebal, which is really great, and it's part of the TD platform. So I've been very, very happy with it.
Wonderful. And Kyle, how about you? I know you said you weren't on TD.
No, I custody at Schwab, so I was fortunate enough to get on there. I kind of lied to them a little bit to get onto their platform, and then, but fortunately, I was able to get to their $10 million AUM minimum pretty quickly. I mean, I run my own models. The firm I was with before was a part of Buckingham, or the BAM Alliance, and so investment management is a big component of what I do. And so I have strong convictions, strong processes, and that's a big part of my growth was having a lot of value to provide there for people who really didn't know how things are currently being managed and want to do that themselves. So. But I use Orion through XY to implement everything essentially, but I have my own model portfolios, and so I don't use a TAMP or anything like that. But a lot of the resources that I have pulled from are my experience as being a part of the BAM Alliance from my previous firm.
Great. And Alyssa, this is for you since you're on TD. Obviously, there's no minimums for XYPN members. I will put a caveat that you do have to pass their due diligence background check and credit check, just FYI, you are not automatically on TD Ameritrade's platform. They do waive the minimums for anyone that qualifies. But are there any annual account maintenance fees or anything per account for TD?
No, there's nothing like that. I mean, you do have to pay, well, either you or your clients have to pay like trading fees, I think is the only thing we pay. And those they have a lot of no fee ETFs that you can use, or I feel like it's $6.99 for most ETF trades and a little bit more for mutual fund trades, I think. So.
Great. And this question is about the XYPN staff, so please be honest about it. But how has it been working with some of our XYPN experts, whether it be your member experience specialist or Scott and his team in compliance, Jeff, who helps us with Orion, Brandon on XYIS. Alyssa, can you speak a little to that?
Sure. I mean, my experience has been very positive. I don't think I've actually interacted tons, but Maddie has been awesome, and the Start Your Firm group has been great. And the compliance group is really great. I do the once a month, I hop on the compliance call with Scott Gill and just kind of throw out any questions I've had over the last month. So I'm very, very positive for me.
Wonderful. That's what we like to hear. Kyle, how about you?
Yeah, same. I think XY only hires A players, and I saw that when I went to Bozeman for the Accelerate conference. I've seen that with Maddie, with Jeff, and Orion. I mean, he's been amazing. Scott Gill with compliance. Whenever I need to register in a new state, I have to register in a new state here pretty soon. I just let them handle it, and I pay extra for that. If you want them to just really do it for you, you can pay a bit extra. And I just do that. Why waste the time for me to try to figure all that out myself? So yeah, everyone's been really great. I think I know you guys had some growing pains early on, but I'm glad you guys had it all sorted out before I joined, because everything from when I joined moving on has been incredible. It's been really easy, and everyone's been great.
Great. Alan always jokes that we hired a little late. The original XYPN staff we were patiently awaiting more staff support for a while. So we now have it. Kyle, you mentioned Accelerate. Would you talk to us a little bit about what Accelerate is for members?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really great things you guys are doing, and how evidence of how you guys are sort of growing and evolving your services along with how the members are growing and evolving. So people like me who kind of are getting to a point where they need to either hire or stop taking on new clients. That's what Accelerate was really about, was how do you think about that decision, and what does it look like to continue to scale up? And it was really resource heavy. I mean, it was amazing. I was kind of mind blown by that. It was it, 20 members or so, Maddie, that showed up. And so it's 20 members who've all had a good deal of success and who are ready to kind of take things to the next level. And so providing that additional workshop beyond just the national conference, I thought was a great idea and very helpful.
Great. And, you know, we say a lot that this is a member-driven network, and we don't joke about that. This is very much a member-driven network in that we are constantly talking to our members about the things they crave and need and desire to help them start, run, and grow their firm. So we, as the member experience specialist team, talk to members day in and day out about what they're looking to do. And Accelerate, our experienced member retreat, came directly out of member feedback. We were hearing again and again, we need an opportunity to connect with the folks who are, a little bit more advanced in terms of business structure, who are ready to hire, who are ready to expand. We were able to gather them out here in Bozeman at the main headquarters. These are really interesting questions. We'll take a little turn and get personal. Alyssa, talk to us about balancing the work-life balance. How do you do it? You're working from home, you're your own boss. Do you work all the time, or do you find that you don't ever work? What's the perfect balance for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's one thing that I do love about being a firm owner, for sure. I think I mentioned before, I've got 3 kids. So for me, it's been really nice to be able to, if I have to, I can drive my kids to school or camp or whatever it is. And I use Calendly software so that people can schedule meetings with me, and I block off the times that I can't do it. But I do work from home, and it is easy to work all the time. And when people ask me how much I work, I like to say it depends what you call work. It doesn't feel like work all the time, but I'm certainly always thinking about it or reading about it or responding to emails or, writing my next blog post or whatever it is. But overall, I found it to be, I love the flexibility. I love the freedom of being setting my own hours and being able to put my family first when I need to, and fit the business in around that, for sure.
Great. Kyle, what's your experience been with it?
It's tough. I have an office, and so I try to limit my work to the office and not do much work outside of business hours. It's great to have the flexibility that we have now. We've traveled a lot more, done a lot more things. But the downside of that is that there's no one covering for you. And, I've been on vacation, I'm going to Montana next week actually for vacation. And, and I have to log in every morning and check all the portfolios. I need to respond to client emails while I'm there. I can put a away message basically, but I still want clients who have pressing things. Like I have a few clients who are going through pressing situations right now, and I can't turn their situations off. So it gets tough. And I would say this too, when I was an employee, I couldn't wait to go home. Like at 4:00, I was just itching to go home. Whereas now I feel like I could just work all day and not stop at all. It's just, there's so much to do. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think you can do it. And some people, they make their firms into a lifestyle practice where they only work a couple of days a week, and you can do that. So that's the beauty of it. You have control.
Yeah. That's a great reminder. You all have total control over defining the type of firm you're running. We really do appreciate and respect and love the diversity of each and every one of our member firms. Alyssa's firm is different than Kyle's firm, which is different than all of our other members' firms. Do any of you have strategic alliances to provide specialized advice? Example, do you have a CPA to provide tax advice through your firm instead of you coming up with tax strategies by yourself? Alyssa?
Nothing specific. I would say the closest I have to that is because I do focus on college planning. I do work with a couple of local college counselors, like private counselors, and we're working on a workshop together and things like that. And I have gotten referrals for sure from college planning or college counselors.
Great. That's a really good pro tip, is that use those connections, professional referrals to act as professional referrals for you. Good tip, Alyssa. Thanks. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I think as a CFP providing financial advice, you need to have a network of professionals that you can bring in at any moment. And so, I have state attorneys, different CPAs, and all depending on the client situation. So I don't just have one. I have an estate attorney who works with high net worth people, and then one who doesn't, or doesn't specialize in that. And so, you really need to have a network of people to pull in at any time. Some things you're going to want to do more yourself. We all have different bents towards what we like to do ourselves. So, taxes are a big part of my financial planning process. So I do a lot of tax projections for clients and whatnot. But I have CPAs that I definitely bounce things off of, and I have a client who's from the UK and they have assets over there, and I'm on the phone with a CPA asking about it. And so, I think that's really important, especially as you start. You need to build out that network, because that was something that I did right away, because I knew I needed to have these other people involved. And then it's obviously good for them to know you. I haven't really received any referrals from any of them, but I wasn't necessarily doing it for that. I really just wanted people to send clients to when necessary.
Great. Any help, any tips for client-facing career changers, CPAs, attorneys, for example, especially those who have passed the CFP exam? I think that goes to what kind of experience folks need, and what we do have a fair amount of career changers joining the network. Alyssa, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I will say I hadn't had any sales experience at all, or business development. So I would say getting experience in that area would be very helpful. And I guess that's hard to do. And I'm learning it on the fly. I think that's the main thing I would say is you don't realize it, but you're in sales all the time when you're trying to find your own clients.
Yep. What about you, Kyle?
I think you really need to leverage your network with XY of other advisors who've been in financial planning for a while. If you're a JD or CPA, you're smart and you have expertise, but financial planning is a different animal if you're just getting into it and haven't worked in a firm before. One of the guys in my study group, he was a career changer he was an engineer and started a financial planning firm. And I was just like, wow, this guy, I can't believe you're doing that, but he's done great, but, he really uses me as a resource, especially in the investment side, because he doesn't have a lot of experience with that. And I'm happy to give that to him. But yeah, I think you're just going to find that there's so many questions. You have so many questions about so many different things, because financial planning and running a business, there's just so many things you need to know. So really leverage your network of advisors that you know and trust.
Great tip. You both mentioned study groups. Kyle, do you use a mentor or business coach or anything like that for individual support?
Yep, I use Arlene, who's on XY staff. So Arlene Moss. I retained her services in January, I believe. And so she's really helped me think through the whole hiring decision. What do I want out of the firm? Do I want to become a $1 billion firm, or do I want to, I don't know, what's the real end game? So she's been really helpful.
Great. Alyssa, how about you?
I have not gotten any individual coaching, just relying on my study group, which has been great.
Wonderful. And I've got a caller asking, I'm starting my firm within the next couple of months. When is a good time to join XYPN? Alyssa.
Probably sooner than later, just because there's so much to learn that you probably don't even know you need to learn. Even these days when I go on the forums that people are asking questions, that you didn't know to ask, for sure. So, I don't mean to push the XY planning, but there's a lot to learn even in those first few months before you register, just to get on those forums and start to learn the software and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say let's say you join XY 3 months earlier than you would otherwise, that's $1,500. I'm pretty sure you're going to find something in the forums that's going to save you $1,500 once you launch. You're probably going to get more than $1,500 of value out of those months, especially early on, because those are extremely crucial time period as you prepare and then launch.
Great pro tips. I'm reserving a really good question for the last question, but before we jump off, we do have 5 minutes left, and I promise that this call would fly by. I sure hope that this has been a helpful call. Kyle and Alyssa, you two are just awesome. You're building really, really neat firms, and you guys are filled with awesome pro tips. Don't hesitate, callers, to reach out to either Kyle or Alyssa. And we do ask that if you do end up joining XYPN, that you let us know if it was Kyle or Alyssa or both of them who helped you make that decision. We certainly want to give thanks to Kyle and Alyssa where deserved. But I will thank Kyle and Alyssa on behalf of all of XYPN and all of our callers for hosting this. This has been such a good call, and I really hope it answered a lot of your questions about memberships. And remember, don't ever hesitate to reach out to the XYPN team to help answer some of the tougher questions. We'll see how quickly we can get through the next couple questions, but this is the one that I thought was the best. But what is the largest mistake that you made? I know the question asked marketing mistake you made, and that you would or would not want to see anyone else make. Let's stick it to marketing and see. Kyle, did you make any marketing mistakes that were painful?
I think I didn't spend a lot of money in the bad places with marketing. I would say I didn't spend enough money in marketing. I think I should have, first thing I should have done when I launched the firm was get sales training. That's the very first thing that I should have done. I waited 4 months or 5 months too long to get it. And I burned some really good leads because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to communicate my value, or at least connect it to why the client was reaching out to me in the first place. So I think that's super important. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Get sales training ASAP. I think I've talked to Alan a bit about making that a part of the XY offering, and maybe you guys are going to do that at some point. But that's really. I went to Nancy Blakey. She does a lot with XY members.
Great. And Alyssa, how about you?
I mean, my biggest mistake was probably just not focusing on marketing at first, and just trying to use like a scatter plot or a scattershot approach, I think, at first. And a few months ago, I started getting much more strategic and, coming up with a marketing plan and, learning about SEO and all that, instead of just kind of randomly throwing out a Google ad or just, a Facebook ad or whatever, learning as much as I could and making an actual marketing plan. So should have done it earlier.
Awesome. Great pro tips. I think we'll have time for another question, but I do want to make sure all of you callers do know that next month's webinar will be all about compliance for new firm owners. So I think a lot of you guys will be interested in that. We're going to have two great members, Heather Townsend and Bill Nelson will be here the first Wednesday of September at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Definitely tune into that call as well. Question from an anonymous caller. This may be our last one, and if it is, I hope everyone has a good and safe night. And thank you, Alyssa and Kyle, for this call. Any advice for folks coming from the broker-dealer world in a client-facing role? Alyssa?
Yeah, so I came from the broker-dealer world. I mean, geez, it's a really different world. Like, you come from a world where you can barely write anything on social media, you can barely do anything without compliance, to suddenly you're your own compliance officer. So I would say learn about compliance, but it helped to have that background, because it makes me a little bit more cautious and makes me think pretty hard about everything I do, because I used to have a compliance officer and now that's me, I guess. That's the biggest difference I see.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Most folks from the broker-dealer world do have compliance at the forefront of their mind. Kyle, any recommendations for someone transferring from the broker-dealer world?
I've never been in the broker-dealer world, so all I would say is you're making the right decision to leave and to go fee only.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kyle and Alyssa. What a good call. I could talk to both of you guys forever and ever, but I did promise to let Alyssa get back to her vacation and Kyle to get back to his evening. Callers, thank you so much for joining us. We love hosting these calls. We hope that they're helpful. We hear that they're helpful. We ask for questions to make them more helpful. Definitely tune into next month's member perspective call all about compliance for new firm owners. So if you're coming from the broker-dealer world, surely jump on this call. We're going to talk all about the transition and the transition into owning your own firm. Everyone have a great and wonderful night. I am here in Bozeman at the XYPN headquarters. We hope all of you will at one point get to experience membership and get to work alongside Kyle and Alyssa in our endeavor to spread financial planning to the greater world. Have a good night, Kyle and Alyssa. Thank you.
Thank you. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks. See ya.